So I do believe that it's safe to say that this video has taken, first of all, way too long to make. Second of all, way too long to get out to you guys. It's been so long since we last did a tech video, but we are back with a new one, and I have finally finished my, or finished, we're gonna get into that, but I have finally built my channel themed custom ITX setup that I see have a use for whenever I may be traveling and I want to stream while I'm on the move, or just as a second opportunity to have a streaming computer that I can also use for my editing and stuff. It's going to be really useful for the channel, and I figured I wanted to share this with you because this is actually a super cheap little tiny setup that you can use as well if you are interested in learning how to stream or record videos, and you are also looking to maybe not invest too much money into it. Then right here you have a perfect setup. Let's get into what this is all about, how I built this and what I filled into this, how much I paid for it, all that stuff. You know the drill. Let's get started. First of all, this machine is something that I have partially constructed myself. It's built in the Geek A50 case, a tiny ATX case, one of the smallest one on the market that allows you to still have a super powerful system with a decent amount of airflow. Not the best case when it comes to airflow, but it actually gets the job done in reasonable manner, I would say. In this machine, we also have a lot of specs. We're going to cover those later, but let's start with the chronological order. So the case is something that you have to assemble yourself, which I did. It's not something that I truly will recommend you guys. It's also a discontinued case, so you won't find it everywhere on the market. There are still people selling it, but the case takes time to assemble, and I don't think that it was necessarily the most pleasant experience to actually assemble this thing. So unless you are interested in doing so, and unless you enjoy stuff like that, I personally honestly do not do that. I expected it to be much more of a pleasant experience, but it wasn't. So for myself personally, do not recommend to ever do this again. But for you, if you do like assembling stuff like this, it is a fun challenge, and it is also rewarding seeing it here now. Second thing is that I received this in white. You cannot get this in yellow, neither can you get the Radeon RX 580 with a yellow cover, at least in this specific yellow. So what I did was that I simply went online and found some spray paint in the somewhat exact same yellow that I use for my channel. I found a color called Shock Yellow made by Montana Spray Paint, and it actually suits my sort of branded color so perfectly. It's a really nice, I mean, you can kind of see it here. So all in all, super excited for that, and I'll just show a bit of footage here that shows the process that I went through in order to actually do this. So spray painting this thing was actually quite easy, but there were a few different flaws in it that I need to redo, which is also why we are creating a second video to follow up this one once we are all done with this. The paint is chipping quite badly because I'm assuming that whatever acrylic finish they have on this, they also gave some sort of a coating that makes the paint more resistant, but also make sure that my paint will not stick to it at all. So it is what it is. And same thing I did for the graphics card. Once everything was done, spray painted and stuff like that, I just let everything dry and then put it back together. I was a bit too eager to get it assembled once again. So actually, if you look real close on the graphics card, you will be able to see just a tiny bit of fingerprints into the paint. Not really ideal, but I was just so excited to see the final product, so I couldn't wait more than like half an hour, and then I had to open it up and look at it. So it is what it is. Still very, very pleased with the result. There are a few things about this that I have not finished yet. First of all, I have printed some custom stickers that has not arrived yet, but I couldn't wait anymore. So I figured, you know what, we have to sand this down and paint it all over again. So why not make a follow-up video where I'm done with everything? And also a few of the components, which we will get into, didn't really arrive in time. So we're kind of waiting with those until everything gets here, and then we'll do a follow-up video where it is fully done. But upon painting and making sure that everything was looking great and things were assembled, the only thing left to do was simply to assemble the computer. Before we get into the assemble video part of this little video here, I'll just quickly want to start out by saying that I learned a very, 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 very harsh lesson during the assembly of this. You will see one of the biggest fails in my life. Apparently I didn't buy the right custom power cables. I had bought white and black, or not white and black, yellow and black custom cables for this case, which I thought were compatible with my PSU in here. Let's just spin this around and give you guys a good look of it here. It is nothing but a cheap Silverstone, but I did at least expect myself to actually get the right freaking cables for it. Did I do that though? Nope. I ended up actually having to, you know, take everything apart because I thought the PSU was broken. It didn't occur to my mind to just try to switch the cables first. So I took everything apart after having assembled it in order to test it with a different PSU. It fired up, everything was great. So I figured, oh God, the PSU is dead. So, you know, I took everything apart, tried the PSU out here on the table just with a few components, still no response until, you know, I went online and I searched and I searched and I searched. And I found this suggestion of, did you try different power cables? And I was like, no, I didn't. Why should I do that? They are compatible. And then I tried and it worked. And I was crying a tear, mix of tears of joy and tears of sadness. But the most important thing was that it worked. So, you know, let me just show you real quick how I put everything together, just for those of you that like that. So the only thing that is left now is the most exciting part of this video, Theo. What is in this machine? Does it work? And you know what? Let's start with the most obvious question. Does it work? Indeed it does. I am so glad to see this thing firing up and just absolutely working like a charm. It is a huge accomplishment for me. This is by far the smallest build I have ever made. Cable management was a true pain to try to deal with in this, but all in all, I feel like it came together so well, and the cable management is decent in here, I would say. There is a minimum of cables going on either side. You might be able to see a little bit down here. I don't know if you can because it's a bit dark. After all, it's a black background, and I think the yellow creates like a sharp contrast to it, so the camera kind of doesn't really catch it, but maybe you can see it hopefully on the second footage there. If you can't, well, it's too bad, but it's not that interesting anyways. On the other side, now I am choking the cable here. There we go. There, for those of you that like to see that. We have in this machine, starting with the CPU, we're running a Ryzen 7 Ryzen 7 1700X CPU in here. It's an 8-core, 16-thread processor that will easily allow you to do, for example, streaming. It is not necessarily the best gaming processor. The single core performance is higher on something like if you go for the Ryzen 5 3600, for example. That one is also going to get the job done just fine. You only have 6 cores, but you'll still have plenty of power to be able to, for example, stream on this. The reason that I chose the Ryzen 7 1700X is simply because of the fact that the processor was sold to me quite cheap. I was able to pick one up for a little over $100, so I'm super pleased about that deal. Did not say no to that, which is why I also ended up going with that processor. I originally planned actually just to get a Ryzen 5 3600 because I feel like that provides plenty of power while also providing a pretty decent single core performance. Nevertheless, we are also using the Wrath Stealth cooler. Did not originally plan to use that either because I do not necessarily really like the performance of it. It keeps the processor cooled at just around 30 degrees in idle, so it's decent under load. It gets a bit heavy sometimes, but nothing too threatening. But it is definitely a plan to get a Noctua cooler in there instead because they really provide some good low profile cooling cooling solutions for your build. So my recommendation, get something that is not the Wrath Stealth because it's not that good. We are running 16 gigs of DDR4 3200 megahertz RAM. I would like to go just a bit higher. The Ryzen 7 especially really like, Ryzen in general just wants as many megahertz as possible to run as optimal as possible, but this will get the job done. For now, thinking about switching those out for some LED lighting, just because I think that would be a nice touch to get some lighting and at least some color in the front as well, now that we have the yellow graphics card on the back, but it gets the job done right now. The motherboard, we are looking at a B450 ITX from Aorus, the Pro Wi-Fi. So we do have the Wi-Fi option as well. In case we don't have an internet connection available, you can always log on to whatever 4G, 5G is close to you. At least I find that very, very optimal for when you are traveling, at least. On top of that, we have a 500 watt PSU. For a system like this is probably the minimum that I will recommend you guys to go for. 500 watts will deliver enough power for it, and you will have just a tiny bit left if you switch out the cooler, and you might be going for just a mild overclock on the CPU, which I would recommend if you want to stream some heavy CPU games. But all in all, will deliver enough power, but 500 is a minimum in my opinion for a combination of this graphics card and the CPU. Speaking of the graphics card though, let's turn this thing around once more. And here we are running in this system a Ryzen. Nope, we're absolutely not running a Ryzen graphics card because that does not exist. We're running a Radeon RX 580. The reason that I went with this graphics card is for the fact that you can see the fans are right now not moving at all. I find this very, very pleasant to have in an ITX system like this, because when I'm not using this for streaming, I will be using this to host something like my stream setup and everything while I'm streaming on my main computer. And having a minimum of noise coming from that is just pleasant in my opinion, at least. So that's why I chose the RX 580, which has a built-in system that will allow your fans not to run whenever the cooling is not needed. Whenever they are not moving and the computer is just running the internet and stuff, the graphics card idles at around 24 or 25. So that's around room temperature, which is more than, you don't need the fans running at that anyway. So definitely a nice feature there, and I am super happy about that. And that is pretty much the system all in all. Besides that, we're also running a 256 gigabyte NVMe SSD, running the new 4th gen, so plenty of speed on that one. Suits in nicely here into the B450. And all in all, the system is pretty much fulfilling all of my needs. So if you are personally looking to get into either streaming or recording, well, then this is, at least for streaming, a good setup. People usually underestimate the amount of CPU power you need in order to actually stream with your CPU. The alternative is also that you can actually stream via your GFX. And the reason that I do not do this on this system is because I do not personally like the encoding that AMD uses compared to NVIDIA. NVIDIA has a really good encoding for if you want to stream via your GPU, but I do not think that AMD necessarily delivers the needed quality for it, which is why I rather want to stream on the CPU when I am using a AMD graphics card. If you guys want to know more about that, please do let me know in the comments, but for now we're just going to keep it to this setup and just briefly touch upon why I actually chose those items for this build. But that is pretty much it for the video. I really hope you guys enjoyed this, and I am super excited for this new build here. Please stay updated on the channel when we will be making the follow-up video. Just create the final touches to this, fix all the paint chipping, put on the stickers, get a little bit of RGB going in here, because we all know that improves every PC's performance simply from the great looking LEDs. So have a good one. Until next time, guys. See you around. Bye bye.